Now, here is the second pattern I see all the time. In almost every household, one spouse becomes the main manager of the finances. They know the accounts, they know the bills, they know the moving pieces. And honestly, that is not automatically a problem. That is real life. Every family has to divide and conquer. One person may handle the finances, one person may handle the kids' schedules, the family calendar, and the day-to-day logistics. Marriage is a team sport. Not everyone has the same job. So the issue is not that one spouse is more involved in the finances than the other. The issue is when one spouse is the only one who understands the finances. That is where delegation turns into risk. Because if one spouse is the manager and the other spouse has no idea where things stand, you do not really have a shared financial life. You have a manager and you have a passenger. And listen, being the passenger may feel easier. You trust your spouse. You're busy with your own responsibilities. You may think they're better at this than I am. And maybe that's true. But trust does not mean you should be flying blind. Because if something happens or if a major decision comes up, both spouses still need to understand the plan. What do we own? What do we owe? Where is the money going? And what are we trying to build? And importantly, who do I call if something happens? That is the part that matters. You do not need both spouses logging into every single account. You do not need both spouses managing every single detail. But both spouses should understand the family's basic financial picture. That's why when we bring on a new family at Julius Wealth Advisors, I strongly prefer both spouses be part of the initial conversations. Not because both people need to take care of every single detail equally. They probably will not, and that's perfectly fine. But both people should hear the plan, both people should understand the basic numbers, and both people should understand the priorities. And both should know who is there to help guide them when life throws them a curveball. Because the goal is not to make both spouses do the same job. The goal is to make sure both spouses know the same playbook. And I've seen what happens when they do. The room changes. Sometimes the numbers are better than they expected, and you can almost feel the relief. Sometimes the numbers are worse than they expected, and it creates a needed dose of reality. But either way, knowing is better than guessing, because once both spouses see the full picture, it is no longer a debate based only on memory, emotion, or who has the stronger opinion. It's their data. The accounts are the accounts, the debt is the debt, the cash flow is the cash flow. No shame, no guessing. Just truth. And truth is useful. You can work with truth. Because without a shared understanding, the whole system depends on one person always being available. And that's fragile. The spouse handling the finances may feel like they're carrying the full weight alone, while the spouse who is less involved may feel like they're just trusting the process. But without shared clarity, both people are exposed. One person has too much burden, the other has too little visibility. Neither one is ideal. The solution is not perfection. It is not both people doing everything. It is shared clarity. At a minimum, both spouses should be able to say, here is what we have, here is what we owe, here is what we are building, and here is who we trust to help us. That alone changes the conversation, because now the conversation is not based on guessing. It is not based on who remembers what. It is not based on the stronger opinion. It is based on the plan. It becomes more productive. It becomes less about blame and more about direction. Here's where we are. Here is where we want to go. Here is a plan to get us there. Now, let's make this decision together. That is the shift from one person carrying the whole burden to both people understanding the plan. From financial blindness to shared clarity. From manager and passenger to two spouses building one financial life together. Because the problem is not that you play different positions. The problem is when you're not on the same field, chasing the same goal at the same time.